Welcome to another episode of the Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to bring back two previous guests, Sheila and Marcus Gillette. Now they're the co-founders of the THEO Group, which is an organization dedicated to sharing the wisdom teachings of the 12 Archangels, collectively known as THEO, speaking directly through Sheila. Now, THEO is here to guide humanity during this unprecedented shift to a higher state of consciousness. Marcus and Sheila Gillette, thank you for joining us again.
We're honored to be here, Kevin, as always.
Thanks for the invitation, Kevin. It's good to be with you.
I know. It's great to have you guys back on, and I wanted to bring you on because there's a number of things that you're doing, and I want to support that as well. And it really is a two-way thing as well. And gosh, you guys are busy. You guys are doing so much right now, and my hat's off to you for the help that you're giving people out there as well. You really are changing lives, and I think that's I love to promote that kind of stuff as much as anything else. I've had you on a few times. You've been on the Channeling docu-series. If people want to find out a bit more about you, then I'll link some of those interviews just below as well. So, it is true to say, isn't it? There's so much to your work, isn't there?
There's a great depth to the work. As you know, Kevin, I've been doing this for over 5 decades and working with archangels known as THEO and bringing forth transformational information that is about the time now that we're living in.
More than any time, do you think?
Absolutely, more than any time. They've told us that 2020 would be the highest transformational year ever in the shift of higher consciousness for the human species. And so all this chaos that's going on right now is part of that change, because all of the old foundational structures don't work anymore. And yes, we will have a new world. We will come out of this and we'll recognize that we're one global species, and how important that is to recognize that oneness, and it's taken a pandemic to do that, to see how connected we all are on this planet.
And I asked THEO not too long ago, Kevin, what makes you such experts on the human experience? And they said that we're really good observers, really keen observers of your experience. There's nothing emotional about THEO. When THEO speaks through Sheila, in my opinion, and I've heard a lot of channeling, as have you, Kevin, in my opinion, there is the cleanest filter. It comes through pure, unfiltered from THEO through Sheila. And that's after working almost 50 years together. You can imagine the amount of fine tuning energetically that took. But that's how it works. And so they come through at it's so delightful to have their higher perspective on everything happening, always, but particularly now. People really are looking for answers now.
Oh yes, they are, and and just going back to that filter as well, Sheila as well, it's taken you, like a lifetime's worth, hasn't it, to get to that clear state, just as Marcus is sort of describing there, you've had to live your journey, haven't you, basically, to get to where you've got to be able to bring this information through, and to trust it as well.
Yes, having the experience with it, and when it first began, I was totally in a trance state, and I was described as a direct voice trance medium. That was what the terminology was then. Now, as we know, it's come into this common term of channeling, but there's just been a constant evolution in my experience, and certainly in my life lessons, and being a student of THEO all these years and practicing what they've been teaching. I am a student as well as any of our clients or anybody that wants to be taught by THEO. I am constantly learning. Every day that I work with THEO, I'm learning something new because THEO meets us where we are. If you've been working with THEO for a number of years and you come again to be a part of their student body, let's say, they meet you where you are, and to take you to the next level. For me, they not only have been teaching me with the words, but energetically, they've been refining and defining my cellular energy field so that they could blend with me more easily and this information could flow with ease.
Yeah, yeah. Just for me to get my head around, what that's been like for you. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal here, neither of you, but I just know that it's a lot of trust, it's a lot of work. But then look how it's provided for so many people and helped so many people. You must wake up and feel, wow, is this my life? Is this really my life? Am I doing this? Yes, we are. This is great.
Yes. Well, and forever grateful for it. But it hasn't always been easy because it hasn't been something that has been acceptable all these years and people being afraid of it. So it was being steadfast and just staying daily committed to the process and to my agreement with them of doing this work. But each day, to your point, Kevin, was even if I had a wobble, I'd get a phone call from somebody and they would tell me about a change in their life, a profound change, a healing change. And then I go, oh, okay, I'll do it one more day. I'll do this one more day. Because we all have those wobbles in life, and to your point about trust, I've done it enough years and I have enough history to trust it implicitly.
Absolutely, and of course, with Marcus there as well, with his energy there and his support as well, it just makes it what you've been able to do, what you're doing as well. It's all part of the picture. It's not one, it's not the other, it's both right now.
Yes.
And you kind of remind me of Jane Roberts and Robert Butts a bit. Do you know what I mean? In that partnership sense as well. Yeah. So okay, wonderful. So you did say there as well about, we sort of started the conversation on how much change there is right now. But do you think this is just the beginning of the change? I mean, surely it goes beyond 2020 in the sense, for us to shift or to make some sort of transition into something better for ourselves or a happier place. That's a bit ongoing, surely.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. But it's taken this time. Theo's been talking about this in my first book, The Fifth Dimension. They were speaking about this time and what it would look like and how we would transform. And I find it very optimistic, even though with all the chaos that's going on, it's unsettling for all of us. But I do know, as I said, throughout the years, I have enough trust to know that I think it's going to be magnificent as we all come together. The new innovations that are going to come and the new foundations we're going to lay and the new world we're birthing is, I think, going to be incredible.
Yeah. Theo said the other night, Kevin, that we've been telling you for decades that this change is coming. We just didn't tell you what it was going to take for it to happen. It took this to wake up humanity, essentially. And from our perspective and the response as opposed to the reactivity to all these circumstances that we're all faced with right now has been one of asking good questions. What's in this for me? What do I need to change in my life now that I've got the time? Things are quieter on the inner now. We're home more now throughout the world. And very well maybe for another year or so. We don't know yet specifically, but it's going to be 2021 before anything changes, and perhaps even the second half before we're actually back to something that feels like a normal, condition. And so we've just been delighted to see how people are embracing this. So many people in our community have said, hey, they're putting their hand up and saying, I'm going to ride this thing out, and I'm going to be a better version of myself on the other side of it. And also be open and receptive to how I can assist that in my own unique way as well. So people are waking up to a higher sense of purpose through all this. And that's what I love about and that's what I love about Theo's teachings, because they meet, like Sheila said, they meet us precisely where we are and give us the information to take us to that next level of self-mastery is really what we're talking about.
And thank you for that. Yes. And, for those watching this now, how can Theo help us to take us to that next level? What are some of those steps that Theo suggests, or what can we do right now if we're feeling a bit, obviously people are watching this for a reason. So, yeah, what are some of those steps, do you think?
Well, for me, it's the ability to transform beliefs about the self that are limiting and non-loving beliefs. There's a pandemic of lack of self-love going on right now, and has been for centuries in this world. Really, that's what Theo's primary teaching is all about: is loving the self in a way that then transforms all the beliefs that we have about ourselves. It affects our relationships. We're taking limiting beliefs about the self, the not enoughness, and we're moving those. We're identifying the core circumstance for where those beliefs began, because you have to know where they began in order to begin to understand how to shift them. And that's what Theo's so masterful in doing. And we can do it in individual sessions or smaller sessions. We can do it in large group sessions as well, because the teachings are the teachings and people see themselves in those teachings. And it's quite remarkable to see how people shift out of a condition or a fixed based way of being, where conditions and circumstances, dictate how I act in my life and how I believe about myself, to a vision-based way of perceiving. You're moving forward, making decisions that then change the circumstances and conditions to our favor, and knowing and trusting going forward that that's how it works. Moving completely out of victimhood into self-empowerment and self-responsibility. And taking ownership for every single thing we create in our lives. And that's how powerful we are. And I think that the emotional mastery is a big part of it. And I also think mastering the manifestational laws, the law of attraction and so forth as well, is a big part of it.
One of the things we spoke about just off air there was unconditional, not having loving thoughts that are unconditional towards yourself. Whenever there's a thought in your head that's not so loving towards yourself, how that sort of manifests into your life as well.
Well, as we know, thoughts are things. And what we think most about is what manifests in our life, because that's what the quantum field or the law of attraction, or however we want to speak about it, aligns with it. So what we need to be aware of is, how do we talk to ourselves? How do we speak about ourselves and to ourselves? That's what will give us the clue of where our beliefs lie about who we are and our desirability. And events and circumstances that happened that created a belief, that won't change. The event won't change because it's history. But perception and belief about it can change. Looking for the blessings and the gifts rather than being the victim of, and letting it define us throughout our life, from keeping us from living the life we want to live.
Absolutely, because that event may still be happening, and it may be difficult to get out of that event, right? Because we all choose our reality in a sense, don't we? And our choices represent whatever the outcome is going to be, or that we have to see it through sometimes, is my point, right? We can't, so yes, and sometimes what we've chosen, yes, it can cause us to have all sorts of horrible thoughts sometimes, can't it? But it's very true what Theo says, and I forget this as well, that yes, what we think, it's having a deep-rooted, it's affecting you in a very negative way if you're going to have those type of thoughts, yeah. But it's okay to have those thoughts, but you're saying it's realizing that it's not my truth, or actually, yes, okay, I acknowledge you, but I kind of release you in a sense.
Well, yeah. And, you know, how many times do we tell our victim story over and over again to ourselves and to others? And Theo would say to someone that would be telling them their story of this happened to me, and, you know, I'm the victim of my life stories that we all have. Theo would say, yes, what are you going to do about it? Rather than buying into the story of being who that person is, empowering them to know they have alternatives. They can change their thinking about it and see how that event or circumstance made them the person they are today, rather than undermine them. And what are the gifts and blessings from those events?
Instead of asking the why questions.
Gave them an understanding and empowered them to be stronger. So there's just what the whole teaching is about, is changing our minds, laying new neural pathways in our brain from the victim story to possibility thinking.
Absolutely. And it seems such a, you know, like a common thing we're talking about. You know, this is not groundbreaking stuff, but it's so relevant. I mean, this is what's going on for a lot of people right now, and it continues to. Do you think sometimes you just got to see things through, even though the space that you're suggesting to come from there, you've still got a path to see through. You know, it doesn't, you know, you've got a journey to take, and it may not always be the nicest road.
Well, that journey is life, isn't it? And again, it's just perception. You know, it's that old saying, is the glass half full or half empty? You know, it's how our perception is. Can we see something that we're going through that might be difficult as a gift, rather than something that's undermining us? If we just change our mind just a little bit, it's like the thermostat in our house. You know, if we change the thermostat a little bit, it'll either get warmer or cooler, depending on what you want. But if we change that thermostat inside of us, in our beliefs and about who we are, it'll change the trajectory of our life forever.
Yeah, and one other part of this too, Kevin, is when people ask the why question, why is this happening to me? We've just completely given our power away to external conditions and circumstances and forces, right? When we're asking, what is in this for me? How can I learn from this? What is the gift? What can I learn from this to create empathy and compassion for others as I teach this way of being, to others and pattern it myself? So it's really just a matter. It's just a transference. You know, I just want to share this real quick. I went and looked up the meaning of self-love in the dictionary. I'm not sure, and I think it was on Wikipedia. It could have been Webster's, but it was a dictionary online. And self-love is defined as conceit, was one of the words. Self-centered was another one. Self-love is completely misunderstood, and we've been conditioned to believe that it's arrogant to love the self, it's conceited to love the self, right? And when we're ingrained with those beliefs, it can be really difficult to shift out of them, you know. And Theo gives us permission to do, and tools to do just that.
Yeah, and again, getting back to these times, this is the time when a lot more of this is coming to the surface. For whatever reason, whatever it's triggering in you, or whatever it, you know, doesn't matter, but or it's just the time now. You know what I mean? Regardless of the pandemic, right? It is just, you know, the time to you've got this choice to help yourself, you know, move on to a different space, or to at least improve in some respects, or at least. It's almost like an alarm bell ringing, isn't it? For some people, it's like it's their soul knocking on the door for the first time a little bit, and maybe just checking in with them to say, "Oh, are you on the right road? You know, are you sure you want this? Are you happy? Are you sure? Just, you know,
sure,
yeah. You know,
well, in the process, answers the question, who are we? I mean, it really answers the question. We get to know ourselves on a soul level. These are soul level teachings that Theo is sharing with us. So we get into the depths of our soul. Who are we? Not just experiences that we've had in this lifetime that created beliefs, but experiences in other lifetimes as well. There's a shamanic component to it. There's an inner child component, and there's a multi-dimensional a multidimensional component to this as well. And in this whole package is where massive and quick change can occur by adopting these principles.
One of the things I just want to mention here as well is obviously you guys have got a new course that you're doing, which starts in September. I wanted to sort of promote that on this channel as well, and one of the reasons for doing this as well is it really goes to some of the core things that we're going through right now, and I know this will help people. Okay, so we'll sort of what we're touching upon now will be in some of the Thrive course material, and we'll go into Thrive as well. But just before we do, I just want to go into talking about realizing your dreams now, and the blockages involved in there as well, because obviously people are rethinking themselves at this point in their life. Is this what I should be doing? Am I on the right path? Have I taken on too much? What is my purpose? And I think one thing I've realized in this time, you can tell me what you guys think as well, is that sometimes we've got things that we need to see through, right? And we have to see them through, otherwise they'll show themselves in different ways, or at least there may be a big project that we've got to see through. And we are on the path, even though we think we're not on the path. And what is my purpose? You are on the path, and the purpose is there. You're just not ready to see what you need to see. Sometimes you've got to just have maybe a bit of help just to tune into that. But we're not too far away from it, is my point sometimes.
Well, I totally agree. And it's our soul is directing our path anyway to what is my purpose. Theo would say to us, life. You've chosen to be incarnate in this life, and your soul's directing you perfectly, and you're showing up for it. But what most people want to know is, what's my passion? Where do I shift and put all my energy? And most of us want to make a significant difference in life. And so that passion unfolds. And if we just recognize everything we're doing in our life has relevance to that passion, to our life expressing itself, because we have a long life to live and we're moving in that direction as we complete those projects. As you put it, Kevin, as we complete those tasks, it's giving us tools and information and understanding to go to the next level of our awareness and the next level of our passionate expression of our energy in this lifetime.
Now, I know one of the modules of the course is obviously to go through purpose and passion, right? And we'll get into those modules in just a little bit, right? But yeah, gosh, I'm going to say this. Sometimes it can be so confusing, can't it? It can be so confusing because we get ourselves in a bit of a muddle, don't we? Where, it could be this, I want 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 it all now. I'm not prepared to wait for one or the other. And it just gets, things get so messy sometimes, don't they, internally? They can do.
Yes. And one of the things that through this course, you would be inspired to write everything down, to see what you really want. Because there's a lot of, as Theo calls them, beautiful shimmering distractions. And there are a lot of ideas. And some of them are just mild entertainment in our imagination. But then when you see it out of your mind on a piece of paper, you can clarify, you can see what lights up. What lights you up on the inner? What gives you life when you think about it? Those are the things you focus on, not all the distractions. The distractions are the things that keep you from moving in the direction, and we've all experienced that. And that usually we get distracted because we don't believe we can have and be or do the thing we really want.
But do you think some souls out there, maybe quite a few now, we've spoken about this on previous shows together, this multiple purpose thing where actually, it's not just one thing right now. I know you've used the analogy before of being a parent and doing this and doing that. Great example, because that's what there's a little boy just, here with me, and I'm trying to do this and balance that, right? it just feels that, well, that's something I've got to do, that I can do that. But sometimes there is multiple purpose things going on, isn't there? So it's not always just, but then we hear these great teachings about focus on one thing, stay with one thing. That's what it's, I don't know, sometimes life's not always like that.
Well, one of the things that THEO, they are consistently reminding us to breathe, right? We breathe just shallow enough to stay alive most of the time, right? And to the topic that we're on about being inspired or not being inspired, this program will if you come in uninspired, meaning you don't know what you want to either do or have or be or change in your life, it's highly, highly likely that you're going to come out of this program. It's 12 weeks. It's live, 90 minutes, each week. And each week is a different topic, of course, as it relates to how the whole integration process unfolds and affects those particular areas of our lives. But most people have things, Kevin, that they've been dreaming about, or just it's that niggling thought of something that's in the back of their mind. It just doesn't go away. It shows up in meditation. It shows up in life that, I know I want to do that, but I just don't have the confidence. I don't have the courage. I don't have the resources. I don't have the time, right? We give ourselves these condition-based excuses for why not to move forward. But most people know that either they want to, maybe it's a relationship. They want to have a better relationship, or they want to find spiritual community or be more connected. And as we become more fully ourselves, get to know ourselves at a much deeper level, we can engage in a more comfortable way in those realms. Maybe it's health. Maybe it's the book that I've always wanted to write, or that company I always wanted to create, or I've been doing this over here and having some success, but I can't see myself ever making that change because I don't have the confidence or courage or resources to do so, right? So whether we come in inspired, knowing, and we want to add to the toolbox in a significant way to move forward with whatever it is that we know we want to do that will bring us passion in our life, or even if we don't know, like I said, you can come in and be inspired within this community of people that come in as well, that communicate with each other in various ways that we have built into the program.
Well, that's right. Absolutely, you've got a community here, which is a great thing that you're able to you've built with what you do, and there'll be other like-minded people within the circles of this course doing, asking the same, having that community support and asking the same questions and going within to find those answers. But what does living authentically mean to you guys then? I mean, is that not being compromised by anything outside of you and just going in your own direction regardless of what anyone says, or is it something more?
Well, living authentically is being who you really are, knowing what your core values are. How do you show up in life? Are you telling the truth about who you are? Are you telling the truth about what you want? Are you telling the truth in relationship to others? For an example, we oftentimes give our power away because we want to be loved and accepted. So we don't tell the truth. We don't say to someone who wants to have a meal with us, simple example, and they say, gee, let's have supper or dinner together. And why don't we go to the great Italian place on the corner? And you don't like Italian food, but you acquiesce because you want to be loved by that person. They're just making an option, but then you don't speak your truth. And there are little things like this that, that wouldn't be my first preference. Could we choose someplace else that we would both enjoy? That's not making the person wrong. And you're speaking your truth. That's authenticity. That's telling the truth rather than acquiescing for acceptance sake.
Another example of this too, Kevin, is people talk about obligation, wanting, feeling obligated to do things that they don't want to do, but they do them because they feel obligated to do so. And so Theo's question for us as it relates to whether or not we, should, because we should ourselves to death, basically, don't we? I should be doing this, I should be doing that. But what they say is to ask the question, am I doing something to be loved? And that's out of obligation. I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. Or am I doing it out of love? And there's a very, very big difference. If I'm doing it out of love, I'm doing it full-hearted with my love by choice, as opposed to wanting to be accepted, which is a very, very different energy.
Quick question then. Obviously, we're talking about love here a lot, and I want to get back into these points because they're really, really fascinating as much as anything. You know, when some people say, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna be more." Forget trying to find love for myself. Let me give that love to somebody else. Let me love somebody else. You know, as though I'm being loved. I don't need their love from them. I don't need their acceptance from them. Let me just show them what unconditional love might look like. I wonder what that space is. That a space to come from? Do you think, or do you think it's a balance, or that's overcomplicating it?
Well, it might be overcomplicating it just a bit. I'll answer that question though with one of Theo's primary core teachings on the topic of relationships. And the old paradigm is that I'm going to do for you, and I'm going to fill that woundedness and that neediness in you, and you're going to do the same for me. And it's going to be great, man. You're going to fill all my needs. I'm going to fill all your needs, and we're going to make each other whole. And that doesn't work. In fact, that's a relationship patterning that many people continue to repeat over and over again until they have the tools, the self-empowerment tools that we're talking about. The new way is simply out of desire and out of without need. In other words, being whole already going into the relationship, and wholeness matches wholeness, and you can have an incredible relationship if you're not expecting to have your needs met or filled by another.
Interesting. Okay. Yep. Well, what if you want to go from that space of a relationship? We're getting into relationships here now. We may as well get into it. What if you're going into that space of a relationship, but the other person's expecting the opposite?
It's not going to work. It's,
fireworks.
Yeah, it won't. It really, I mean, you could certainly develop a relationship out of that. Anybody can, I suppose. But at the end of the day, is it going to be a deeply fulfilling, deeply spiritually connected relationship when one is still having a need of needs being met to fill them up, right? So it's a general rule, that's how it works. Anyway, at least that's been our observation of it.
Well, it's being the savior. That's what
savior, right? Yeah.
Or the fixer. And that comes from a subconscious recognizing the woundedness in someone. And if I love you enough, you'll love me that way too. It's the ultimate quid pro quo. Truly, it is. I'll do this for you and you'll fix me, but it's an inside out job. Because nobody can fill those expectations that have been unmet for us except us. Because they don't know how. They don't know that greater need. And so any attempt at doing that would never meet the mark. So that's why the integrative process is so powerful. Because when you have done that on your inner, there's a vibrational frequency to that will be matched with another who's done that for themselves. And so you come into that relationship out of preference, not need.
Absolutely. And, I think having, obviously the relationship as part of what you're going to be teaching soon on the Thrive course, it's so important. And you do say in the actual breakdown of the sort of course breakdown that it's not just when it comes to the module on relationships that you're going to teach live, it's not just on my partner, my lover, it's parents as well. There's all sorts of new relationships taking place right now or breaking down. And it's not just, the one that's closest to you.
Well, the one that's closest to you is yourself. And there's a big emphasis, particularly in the beginning of the program, on loving the self. And that's the soul integration process. So once we've moved into that relationship with the self, being a loving relationship, we can have an incredible relationship with our partner, with our family, our friends, our coworkers, everybody in our lives.
What's it mean? What's it feel like to love the self? Is that all the time that Theo teaches that happens, or is that just, it's just a milder version of that? I mean, to love the self, you mean in a sense that we won't self-harm, for example, or we're not going to do something that would let be a contradiction to what we want, as we were just discussing there. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to go to the Italian restaurant really, but I'll say yes.
Well, those are actions out of self-love. But truly what it is being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable with yourself. And in that, there's a sense of internal peace. Most people will say, well, I want to be happy. But happiness is relative to events and circumstances and things. But what we're talking about in the sense of internal, solid state, unconditional love is just a sense of peace, no matter what's happening in our lives. That we can handle whatever's going on, we can feel joy, but it's a solid state of being. Like the calm, the eye, THEO describe it as like the eye of the hurricane. That's calm place, no matter what's swirling around it. And that we have that sense of self to be able to manage whatever energies coming at us, in the sense of decisions and opportunities, as they would call it, opportunities of growth that we're always going to get.
And just right now, we may find ourselves challenged in the ways that have been the most excessive that we've ever known it before right now, in our own private ways.
Yes.
Not because we've been affected so much by what's going on, right? It just is the energy right now.
Well, and it's the time. THEO talks about the fifth dimensionary energy is transformational energy. Never before have humans been ready to up-level their consciousness until now. And the recognition of our multidimensional beingness. But this time that we've had to be self-hibernating out of necessity, it's giving us the opportunity to do that reflection and to ultimately do the integration and to change our lives so that as we move out of this time, we create this new world, our new world, which then in turn affects the greater whole, the microcosm of the macrocosm, you might say.
And there'll be others that will that are out there, of course, having a completely different experience to this, right? A completely different. Yes, they may be affected in some way, but they're never going to face up to any of these. They're not going to, try to work on themselves. They've got no care to want to do anything that we're talking about because it's just where they're at. They're not ready for it, maybe.
That's true. That's true.
And you may be speaking about the majority of humanity, Kevin, and there's no judgment. I mean, that's just the way it is. THEO talks also about life being easier and maybe more with more grace and more ease, more flow for those that have had numerous incarnations. THEO talks about us having had several hundred incarnations on this planet. People who have chosen, souls that have chosen to incarnate more frequently on this planet as human beings. As opposed to other choices that the soul can make, are referred to by THEO as older souls, and it does help to, as opposed to younger souls. And younger souls have a tendency, and it's not good or bad or right or wrong at all. It's just time spent learning emotions and the human experience for that individual soul. And it does help to explain some things. It explains why life is easier. It explains for some why people seem more consciously awakened somehow than others. And again, there's no judgment in it. It's just a matter of how much learning in the emotional realm has that particular soul had. How many times has it incarnated? And I know it sounds a little weird, but it's been our experience that it's just very
well. It's a way to make sense of it, isn't it? And it I mean, that makes sense, to me what you're saying. And it will do for a lot of other people. So thank you for sharing that as well. And I think one of the points you teach in this course as well is, these are such amazing points. Some of these, like mastering your emotions. And just think how many times recently we've all come out of sync with, really not mastering our emotions and letting it just become. We've become people, some of us, that we'll look back on and think, ooh, I don't want to be that guy or girl again. Do you know what I mean? For what just happened there.
Yeah, that's why we've been
Exactly.
using the kind of feedback we have from people who've been joining us recently. It's just such a great time to be together, such a great time to be in community. This technology we're on right now, Zoom, has video cameras for breakout groups, and people can come together after the session. We have an after party, which is kind of cool. And we groups of 4 or 5 people at a time, 6 people, and come together and commune and share, because they're with their people. They're with people that believe in THEO, number one. They believe in the teachings that they're embracing, and they believe in each other, and they're coming together. We also have a forum that they, a private forum they can communicate within as well. So it's just been really great to see how much.
Well, to your point, Kevin, about not wanting to be that person, the emotional mastery that we speak about is not reacting to situations and circumstances, but being responsive to them. It's a different energy. Reactivity is from a trigger, and reaction is usually coming from the beliefs of not being good enough. The trigger comes from the emotional body, and it's the first responder. And that's what you're talking about, is not wanting to do that anymore. So emotional mastery is where you're in a situation and circumstances as described, and you have that internal calm where you respond to it in a more appropriate way.
And Kevin, one more thing I want to add to this conversation is as people adopt Theo's teachings in this realm, we typically tend to not judge anymore. Typically, we move into non-judgment. And Theo talks about the difference between non-judgment, or being a difference between judgment and observation, is that judgment has an emotional reaction in it. Observation has no emotional reaction. It's just an observatory response.
It's neutral.
Viewing it's a neutral emotional response, as opposed to something that gets triggered within you. So anytime that you wonder if you're judging another, to see, check in and see, are you emotional about it? And that'll give you a good clue.
And sometimes it's okay, we have to make a judgment of some sort, don't we? Is this good for me? Is this not so good for me? Are you misleading people? Are you helping yourself? Are you helping others? Do you know what I mean? But I hear you. But we do need some reaction to what, it's a balance, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
If our life is in danger, and yeah, there's definitely decisions that we make that are good judgments at the time, hopefully, to keep us alive.
We become the noticer of us. What you were talking about, gee, I'd really like to do that differently. Who's that observer? Who's that witnesser of us at that time? And it's noticing what we're noticing and being more connected to that noticing than we've ever been,
it's
rather than unconscious.
Probably the ego side that's scared of, like, once this gets out, do you know what I mean, and they see who I really am and all that type of stuff, do you know what I mean? Whatever it may be, whoever that noticer is, for whatever reason, do you know what I mean? Or this has been shared, I didn't want them to talk about that or that, whatever, it's just, yeah, and that's part of just letting go, isn't it? Just letting go and going with the flow. And my dad used to say to me, you're on stage once and that's it. Just there's not much you can do about it sometimes, right? So try to come from the right space. Try to be nice to people. And if things haven't worked out quite the way you wished it would have been, I think what you're saying here is that we get a second chance.
Yeah, you can have a do-over.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're in a space that you've had an interaction with somebody that you think, gee, that wasn't very elegant. I've done this myself. I didn't do that very elegantly. I go back to that person. I go, and usually it's Marcus. And I'll say to him, can I have a do-over? And he's always so gracious to let me have a do-over. But in those moments, it really affects our relationships, rather than just thinking, oh, I'll do it differently next time. We can we can do that.
That's really important. Marcus, thank you so much for that. Thank you for saying that. That's Sheila. Marcus, what, you just going to say something there?
I just wanted to add, as we're talking about the golden rule, obviously. And for me, the law of attraction is the energetic, magnetic version of the golden rule. In other words, as we treat others, we will be treated ourselves. As we think like thoughts, we will be attracting people with those types of thoughts. We will be attracting people into our world, both as friends or romantic partners or business partners or whoever it is that we're attracting. We all operate, Kevin, at a very unique and specific vibrational frequency, and it's consciousness and it's awareness and it's love within that. That's all it is, you know?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say with relationship, I even feel like I'm shifting my relationship with my parents right now. I mean, I really want to talk about my own personal relationship, but I'm not going to do that right now because I think that's not really the space for this, right? But even just my parental relationship in this time, I feel that's shifting as well. Do you know what I mean? Being away in another country, and that it's just a completely different relationship now, and I think other people will see that aspect as well in so many different ways. Do you know what I mean? With being locked down.
Is it possible that you have more appreciation, more gratitude?
Oh, I think it's a lot of things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gratitude. A lot of things. A lot of things mixed in there. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But okay, law of attraction, because I know that at times not always on our side, right? Law of attraction. That's such an important one. What will people get from that type of class coming to this particular course, this program?
Well, the first thing that they'll learn is that it's working perfectly all the time. We have a lot of people that come into our community saying the law of attraction hasn't been working for me. Well, the fact of the matter is the law of attraction has been working perfectly for you. It's in fact, all you need to do is look at your life, all the conditions and circumstances that are current in your life right now to know that the law of attraction has worked perfectly because you have manifested to yourself precisely what it is you believe you deserve. And it's in that deservability, that belief of deservability, where when that shift happens, magic begins to happen in people's lives. I mean, you begin to actually manifest the things you desire to manifest because you don't have a second thought after stating your dream of why it can't be, which is how we've been conditioned and how our beliefs have been formed over this lifetime and perhaps others as well that are influencing this lifetime. So we remove the blockages of the deservability piece and we move into deserving, in owning and knowing that that's my birthright. And it's a very different way of perceiving and a very different energy, and ultimately attracts a very different outcome in our lives.
And it can change really quickly, can't it, sometimes, once you get into that thinking. Yeah. We always think that it's going to take a long time to manifest, but actually it doesn't have to, does it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like what I was talking about, that internal thermostat. You just change something a little bit. It doesn't have to be huge, and it changes the trajectory of your life enormously. So, and it could be just in a revelation that you get of, oh, that's where that came from. And you change your thinking about it. And then boom, things start happening that you've wanted to happen, that there was some resistance or block to up until then.
I mean, one of the final points was also, the times that we live in right now, which we've spoken about. They are exciting times. And I think that I have this feeling, I just get this feeling that this is going to last a while. It's not the COVID, but this change that's going on. I just get it's just, this is the start of a bigger change. I might be wrong.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. It's not like just instantaneously, then it's all changed. It's a process.
It's a process. And people could say, well, what's next? What's next? It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And not to be in fear of what's next. When I did my channeling back in the day, it used to say to me, there is a great change coming. There's a great change. There is a great change coming. And it's huge. And I think it is. And I think it's going to be a good thing, because as all your work is led into this, this space that we're in now. I mean, what's it feel like for you guys to be in this time right now and to know that everything you've worked towards is really, really, really important right now? It was important before, but now it matters. lots.
Well, it's a confirmation of the information that's been imparted over the years. It's just a continual confirmation, which builds the trust and belief, and a lack of fear of what's next. Saying yes to life because it's ever changing, and not to be afraid of the changes. We have all of this what ifness, and fear and faith ask the same of us, as Theo would say, to believe in something that's unseen. So why not have faith? Because we are the creators of what's next. So it's asking the self, when you say, well, what's next, to somebody, say that to yourself. Well, what's next? In the best of all possible worlds, what would you do? What would you want to do? Because we all come in wanting to be significant, whatever that means to us individually, and how we express ourselves. And one is not greater than the other. Really, it's not. It's all the tapestry, the woven tapestry of our human existence. And every thread in that tapestry is important, or it wouldn't have its beauty.
Right. And I just want to quickly say this as well, that, thank you for that, whoever's going to come on the course like this, whoever's listening to this or comes on the course, who is present in this information that we're talking about right now, okay, what is this change about? This is a change of helping people become their better selves, helping bring peace in their life, to really enjoy the present moment that they've got in their life as well, to make the most of why they came here, right? And what is the ripple effect of that to other people around, just in their vicinity, if they're not feeling the same way? When someone goes through a massive shift like that, through the help that you can give them, or just even through listening to this and self-help that they may give themselves, what is the ripple effect of something like that, and why do we need the ripple effect there, do you think, right now?
This is such a good question, Kevin. This is what it's all about. It's how we express in our lives. We ourselves raise our own vibrational frequency, our own awareness. We grow and expand spiritually and become much more comfortable, like Sheila said earlier, in our skin. We're just comfortable. There's a vibration of joy. We're not reactive to what's going on around us, but as we view others, and it's all energy, it's all a vibration, isn't it? Right? So as we raise our own vibration, that energy, because we're all energetic beings, impacts those that we're in relationship with. They can just feel it. And it gives us the ability, the observational skills, to be able to hold state. It's a whole nother conversation we could have at another time about holding state energetically for beings to do what they got to do, to be the way they have to be, but being able to hold that state in a way that there's kindness, there's compassion, there's a vibration of love, understanding, and just that intention and those beliefs and thoughts that we have, with our own vibration working positively in that way, can shift a room. It can shift a relationship. It can shift an interaction that we're having with others. And ultimately, there's a number of people in our community that have shared with us many, many times that people ask, what's up with you? What's going on with you? I've noticed a change in you. I've noticed a difference in you. You seem more peaceful. You seem more joyful. You seem so comfortable in your skin. And that's a powerful impact that you can have on people by virtue of just being who you have become.
Well, thank you very much for that. And Marcus, just going over Thrive now. Obviously, this is just tell us just tell everyone a bit about Thrive and just what they can expect and what when it starts and yeah.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure to do that, Kevin. Thank you for the question. So we begin on a Tuesday evening, 5:00 Pacific, September 1st. We're going to do 12 weeks, 90 minutes live. A good portion of that 90 minutes is talking to Theo live. So the participants will have an opportunity. Many each week will have the opportunity to come up live, just as we're speaking right now. It is on Zoom. And then we teach each week. And we have a play work, we call it. We have guided meditations and journaling exercises. but each week is unique and it's a different topic. And it starts with, self-care. We go into soul integration. We move into relationships, connecting with angels and spirit guides, money, manifestation, authenticity, many of the things that we're talking about right now, soul planning and envisioning. And we really kind of, try to health, of course, relationships. We try to cover the gambit of our lives, all the tenets of our lives throughout, from one week to the next, and they build. Each week builds. As I mentioned earlier, Kevin, we also have half hour for breakouts afterwards, so people can get to know each other and form community. We have a private online forum for people to communicate with, and where we put topics in, and people can begin to explore and make recommendations and so forth. So it's live, as I mentioned, and it is week to week. We're going to be building on the previous week, addressing, again, all those topics that are so important to everybody. And ultimately, how Theo's teachings on soul integration can positively impact, by embracing these teachings, can positively impact all these areas of our life. So if people come in uninspired or not knowing what the life is that they really want to live, it's a very good chance they're going to come out of this with some real clarity in that area.
Yes, and much more as well. Even coming to that space after it, of because they've gone through that sort of improvement that's really helped them. Do you know what I mean? That they're passing that to other people as well. I think that's if they, it'll be their soul that's drawing them to it. Do you know what I mean? That's that. Some people may sign up to it thinking, "What am I doing?" And it's like they said, you've got to get through it first. There's a reason you're there.
We hear that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. How did I get here? Absolutely. Yeah, and you can apply that to so many different parts of your life as well. Do you know what I mean? So yes, okay. So the website for that for right now, it is, if you go to channeling.com/thrive, and of course all that information has been coming up on the screen as well, so that's one way to get there as well. And I think we're going to try to get Theo on as well, just to speak to Theo. So Sheila, I'll let you tune in to Theo, bring them through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. It is the beginning, is it not? One seeks questioning here. Days of acceptance. You're asking, you may begin.
Yeah, one of my questions to you, which Sheila has answered as well, but I'd love to speak. To get the chance to speak to you is going to be good. The idea that okay, so part of your work, or part of the reason why you choose to come here, is to help us to see the greatest version of ourselves, and to know that all answers in the end lie within, and that it's safe to do so, and how love is, a great answer on so many things, and all the things that that we've spoken to Sheila about today, right, and much more. What is it really to do? I mean, why do we want a world where where this rippling of peace would, or at least, that there is a chance to start to shift the world to a more peaceful place? I mean, are we unable to get there in our innate self without guidance? Or is this an acceleration to get there and to get to a peaceful place? What does it really? What does the world look like in that sense, or could look like?
It is an acceleration to get into that sense of self, that soul-centered place of being, in which ones would interact with the world and themselves and others from that solid state of unconditional love. If every being on the planet could recognize their divine mastery and could see themselves as we see you, there would be no discontent, and there would be peace in your world. That is why we brought forth the integrative process, so ones could come into that state of self-love and radiate that out into life itself. So that would bring peace. It is a time never before on this planet experienced for this purpose. That is why we are here. to share and to enlighten you with this information that is useful for the recognition of your divine mastery.
If the world was a bit more of a peaceful place, and I hear it all the time, you want to see a change in the world, change yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but if there was that peace that was there, which we're not in the worst of states, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? But if there was all that, what we talk about all the time when we've had our interactions, what would that look like? Do you think in a day-to-day life on planet Earth if it came from that space?
You would be using your creativity to bring forth great beauty upon this planet, rather than the divisiveness that has been. When one holds the self in that esteem of the divine and sees it in another, you would treat each other appropriately with love. And in that, there would not be the energy expenditure of protection. There would be the expenditure of energy in creativity to bring forth innovations, to bring forth beauty, to bring forth your unique gifts expressed upon this planet in the unique way that each and every one of you has. None of you are the same. You're each unique souls that have chosen to be incarnate at this time. And you have a unique way of expressing that energy. And so if you're not encumbered by old beliefs of limitation, you can be in that state of creativity fully.
No matter what's going on around the world around you, if other people aren't going to want to take that shift, if you do, that makes all the difference for you right now. You're not here to...
It makes a difference when that occurs. And as we stated, if everybody would do it, you would have peace in your world. And if one could imagine the beauty that could come from that in the recognition of the divine in each and every one of you.
Do you think that, I mean, God, I'm just thinking now, like, God, what would planet Earth look like in 100 years' time if there was more of that energy that you're trying to give to other people through doing the work that you do, and it had rippled out through other people's work as well, in different ways to get to that same place that you're trying to get us to, right? I wonder what our civilization would look like. I wonder, if we halt if we're sort of slowing other things down that we couldn't possibly imagine, just from the harm that we give ourselves through this division that we have sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Through love.
That is true. But look what's happened in the last 100 years to your world, innovatively speaking. More has occurred on this planet in human experience and innovation in the last 100 years than ever happened in hundreds of years before. And that momentum will continue because the fifth dimensionary energy has been working on this planet for about that length of time. So the new innovations that are coming that you can't even see yet will transform this world. It is not to think of isolation, not to think of the earth being separated, but as a whole. When we look at your world, we see no divisions. We see no barriers between your states and countries other than natural barriers of mountains and water. Do you see? So those are artificial, actually, on your maps, the demarcation lines between you. Imagine a world where there's this oneness of expression of each unique soul on this planet, bringing forth the goodness of their creation what could happen when all of this has happened already and will continue to move and grow in this time of chaos. Know this will change, and there will come order, a new order of being. And each and every one of you have chosen to be incarnate now for that change.
Well, thank you for that. And what's it do to our soul level? What's it, I mean, we're all going to, cross over or we won't be here one day, right? So, we're all searching for that answer, of, what this is. And if there is something more, which I obviously, do believe there is, otherwise I wouldn't be exchanging my energy with you right now to do this, right? That I wonder, from coming from that more peaceful perspective, what that does to our soul at some deeper level, and others maybe, that there must be something. I feel there's something is there. Do you know what I mean? There's a connection with it all.
What is happening in this time is a relief and release of beliefs and limitations of thought that have been passed along for centuries. They've been genetically passed along as a lineage of family and culture. That is what is changing now in this shift of rewriting the script, changing beliefs of limitation into the alignment of that self-love, which then in turn changes belief systems for the future, but it also changes them from the past culturally, so that they no longer serve as restrictive to the evolution of this consciousness.
And is that what's important, the evolution of this consciousness as well, and also what's coming to me, whether I'm right or not, I don't know if I say it, that the damage that I'm using the human word damage, but the issues that we put ourselves through here with not, with having this human experience, it is taken with us where we cross over. I mean, crossover is just another word for whatever the transition is, right? That's not the right word for it, but you know what I mean. That is taken with us, and if we could clean it up a bit this side or here, it would just be helpful for where we're going as well, or where we've come from, going back to.
We speak of it as birth to birth. You birth into your physical reality, your body, which is your earth suit to navigate this planet. But when that time is complete for the incarnation present, then you birth into your multidimensionality once again. Energy is constant, only form changes. And all that information, all that knowledge of the challenges and the growth that has been done is within that soul energy frequency. And yes, you carry it into your next experience, whatever you choose it to be, whether it's an incarnation on Earth or one of the billions of other choices that can be.
So make sure you're carrying, well, not make sure you're carrying something good with you, or whatever. Just, there's a better way we could do it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, it's growth. When you started elementary school and you started learning how to count, you could count to 10 because you had 10 fingers. Yes? That's how it starts, elementary. And then you learn addition. And then you learn subtraction and multiplication, and you see how you can use those numbers in different ways. But that's all in maturation and learning and education and experience, isn't it? So that when you get university, you're already learning more because you've matured in that process of learning. Life is like that. There's a maturation that is occurring in each incarnation that one grows from. To have an understanding of emotions, to have an understanding of the human experience. And so it is a continuum of growth. And that is what one chooses on a soul level.
Do you think the more that you help people grow and see their greatest version of themselves, that you're growing from that as well, that you're evolving?
All is evolving. Nothing is static. It is movement and growth at all times.
Oh, I wish I could keep you for a lot longer. I know that this is enough right now, and I really thank you. And I know that we'll speak again. I know we will.
And you're asking, it is given. God's love unto you. Good day.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Sheila. Very, very appreciated. Marcus, obviously, without you, this wouldn't be possible neither. So a massive thank you for helping arrange this interview. But that was interesting, wasn't it? What Theo had to say there. I know you've heard in some ways it said before, but it's refreshing to know that that's partly why we're doing this as well.
The messages, Kevin, are so consistently positive. I'll share this very quickly. That someone asked the other day on one of our TV shows that they've been receiving a lot of negative information about what our future looked like from various channels. And we know there's amazing channels on this planet. So this is not an indictment of anybody, other than they have been listening to information that was very negative about the outcome, where we're heading. And Theo just said, basically, there's filters that information comes through. And what they're doing for us, what they're doing with us, is providing us the tools to create our own positive outcome. Because our futures are going to be exactly as we created them to be. Absolutely. So Theo, in their optimism and in their positivity of what we're all creating together now on this planet, are seeing that, and they see within us the ability to be the creators of that. And to your point about Theo coming through Sheila in such a pure, unfiltered way, I think that's one of the things that people have been commenting on for decades now, and that's the gift that Sheila brings to the world. So thank you so much for having us on, by the way, Kevin. Very, very appreciative to be able to talk about all this.
No, and I really appreciate what you said there as well. I agree with you. I agree with you. I think, if you're with a channel and they're not resonating what feels empowering for you, maybe they are doing the job, maybe they're doing it perfectly, but it's that's to show you the opposing opinion. Who knows? But I do agree with you, and sometimes, like as you say, sometimes the person that's bringing it through, if they're going to get flavored with conspiracy and everything else, that can have a bit of an effect on that as well. So
I want to tell you something funny, because this happened in 1999 when Y2K was out there. And there was all this conspiratorial stuff, and the world was going to come to an end. And people would ask Theo about it, and they'd say, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to, and that they were consistent with that. And so on January 1st of 2000, and the world didn't blow up and everything was fine. It was really interesting how, that was confirmed, that Theo said, it's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Everything's all right. So I was just speaking to somebody about that the other day, because they said to someone that was asking about one of the conspiratorial things it was happening, and they were saying, no, that's not true. And then at the end, their last comment was, we didn't believe in Y2K either.
That is, well, yeah. And there was 2012, wasn't there? There was a few others. Yeah. I mean, probably even when 9/11 happened, there was some, stuff like that. But yes, I've not addressed that too much in many of my interviews, but I know I'm with you guys on that. Yes, that's another subject, right? But thank you for that.
It is.
And
it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's empowering for you to look back and see what was said. Things like that. And with the Thrive, just so we know this as well, for so that's September the 1st to November the 17th. And if people are a few days late in signing up for that, can that still work for them, or will it be closed on September the 1st?
It actually closes on August 28th.
August 28th.
The
Right.
registration closes August 28th. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, just okay. Okay, wonderful. Well, guys, I just want to say, your website is, just before I let you go, your website is
AskTheo.com.
THEO.com. That's been coming up on the screen. That's just for the podcast. So Marcus and Sheila, again, just thank you for an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the help.
We always so enjoy our conversations, Kevin. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's been our pleasure, Kevin. Enjoyed every minute of it. Absolutely.